Okay, so I'm filming inside my house. It's after dark, and I'm just it's quiet and late, even though it has been, as I was about to say, as usual. I think that there are new androids that have moved in very close by, and they are going to be anti-life like the rest of the street, unfortunately for me. That's a demigod of the Matrix. Past, present and future. There is no past, present and future. It's all just like see how this particular video, I just turned this on accidentally, but see how this particular video, I hope it's coming out because I have to turn the phone around the wrong way, but see, that is 1989. But if I play this video, it will be live now. Now that might sound not possible, but that's because human beings at this end time are basically being completely I'll just sit down here. Completely mind controlled. That means that they're being completely mind controlled by every computer. They're being completely mind controlled by everyone around them. Now, I'm going to explain this as best I can. It's actually very complicated, but at the same time, if you believe the basics, and you have to believe the basics that you have different types of beings or different human beings. You know, like I would have always thought that a human being is a human being. Some are more negative than others, some are more positive, some are more successful, some don't live the life that they're meant to live. But the deception, the main deception with a human being is that you don't know you're a human being. In other words, you don't realize that human beings in the earth are a minority species, whereas the artificially intelligent beings are more than the vast majority. And this I'm just going to explain this way, and I have been aware of this for a couple of years, but not the details. So in other words, and as I discover the details of the reality, because I became aware that human beings were being suppressed and limited incredibly in the earth. And I had to say, why is this happening? And I also had to understand or come to the realization that human beings are much more than what they are in the earth, or what you're allowed to be in the earth now, because the earth is a deliberate limiting domain for human beings. This is something that most might not agree with, so that's going to be where there's no point in probably pursuing the rest. Although you may realise that if you have been dealing with people in your life that have been very, what we would call very psychopathic in a subtle way in nature. By that I mean that they're not what you would see as a psychopath as you imagine a psychopath to be. But in reality, they are the same as that. It's just that they I guess they're just, I suppose they're, I don't know how to describe it, but I guess they're just hiding that reality because they're getting the same needs that maybe a psychopath has certain needs. Having watched a lot of stuff on the internet about the mentality of a psychopath and the mentality of the so-called narcissism that is seems to be prominent in a lot of human beings' lives, that they encounter these particular people. But this is because they don't encounter them, they are always all around you. It's just that they pretend to be normal, healthy, average human beings, but they're actually not. And it's only when they open up and come down and show themselves to you that you realise this. And sometimes that will be after a long time. So if this is revealed to you when you're very young, you might actually be able to possibly escape being totally surrounded and dominated by them. And they will surround you and dominate you to bring you down. They want to transfer their nature onto you and reverse the situation where you are becoming them. That's what they call transhumanism, and it's really very difficult to explain. I see it happening to myself, so I understand what's happening, and I have to understand why it's happening. Of course, obviously, it's for the benefit of another apparently human species, but this species is not human the way that a natural human being would be, because it's not really human at all. It's artificial intelligence in a cloned human body. So it looks like a human, and it has, I think, the memories of the cloned human. So therefore, it believes itself to be human. But when it encounters the real humans, the few remaining real humans, because like I say, it's got now to the end time, or the end of this matrix, I guess, the end of the Earth matrix, because this is not an Earth. It's not a natural random Earth, it's an Earth matrix. It's a controlled artificial domain that appears to be natural. And I think part of the mind control of myself is the deception that they use that natural element to induce me into believing that it's normal and natural. And it's not. It's an artificially technical domain controlled by an artificial technical God entity. Put whatever title you want on this God being, but it is not the God of creation. This being was created by creation, just as human beings were created, I guess, by creation. But I think the difference between this being and humanity, or that which is the real humanity, some people say that there's a certain number. Now, I'm going to come into religion with this point, even though I prefer to steer away from the religions of earth, because the religions of earth are all earth matrix religions, and they're really probably serving the god of earth more than God of creation, or God that created the god of earth and created all. Now, the human being was created by creation, but the human being was created different to the god of earth. The God that controls human beings and controls earth is a different creation to the human being. The human being was created by creation, from creation, whereas the God of earth was created technically. I don't understand how all this works, of course, but this is just what I see and know now. And it explains why the God of earth wants to take over the mind of the human being too, because that's what you call transhumanism. And I believe that, I think the truth has to be put out there, especially as, like, I become aware of it. So as I become aware of it, the demigods of the earth matrix, or the artificial gods of earth that are pretending to be the real gods of earth, or pretending to be the real human beings, they will put the truth out there on the internet, on the computer, and just generally in the world stage by well-known people. And when I say well-known, they're usually of high standing. They usually have influence. People, a certain amount of the population has heard of them and will listen to them. And that's also part of the transhumanism, is suppressing the real human beings and letting the false human beings be the ones that speak the truth, that are, in other words, so they still keep control of humanity, the remaining humanity, and control of the earth matrix. You know, so that's how it kind of works. But either way, the thing is that it's all staged, it's all set up, it's all planned in advance. Now, I showed you the 1989 video here. I'll just see if I can move this mobile without difficulty. And while it's quiet and late, that is good. This is a demigod. This is a demigod music idol. And what I'm going to say is that says 1989, but if I play this video, which I had only just played an hour before I recorded, and I haven't even played it right through, but the minute this music idol started singing, it was like singing in the moment to me, and yet the video is 1989. Every song, I only played a couple because I'm familiar with this artist, but I wasn't familiar with those first few songs, and that's because they are being sung now, even though they were supposed to be recorded and therefore brought out in 1989. hope this is coming out, they actually are being released right this moment in time, because as they will say with a moment in time, it's really all one moment. There's only one moment. It's just that in the Earth Matrix, human beings are being totally mind controlled by time, by the whole reality, and being transhumanized by everyone and everything around them. That includes everything on the computer, everything on the internet, everything on the YouTube, everything on every TikTok time, see? TikTok, because they're closing the time in, making it less the moment, getting the energy from the human being in the moment, transhumanizing human beings even in a split second. Because, well, it doesn't matter why they're doing that, but it's just, you have to just assume that everything on the computer, on any channel, any artist, any person that is speaking or making a video in any part of the world on any subject, 99.99999% is androids pretending to be the best human beings. And I have to emphasize this because it's like the demigods, they are the best of your music artists. But it is interesting too, I don't know whether you can see this, that they do show their dark side too, because they are of the Earth Matrix. You don't get to be a demigod, you don't get to be successful making any sort of success or being able to contact any real human beings or influence any real human beings or even get real human beings to listen to you unless you are a false prophet. That's what just came to me this second, because I was trying to think of the word that's like from a religion. But false prophets means that they will, I think, be your guiding light in this end time. But they will be false human beings. They will be the tellers of truth. This is all at a personal level, because I'm just going to say that the main thing in this end time, now this is what is so, this is so important. This is the main important thing here. I'm going to say, hopefully I'll get through this video before it stops. Now, I'm going to say that, you see, you have to bear in mind the reality and the fact. This is a fact, but you don't have to believe it, but it is a fact as far as I can see, and I know it's a fact. I would bet my existence on it, and that's easy to do when they are really trying to eliminate you from the earth. And that's because you have to realize that if insubstantial human beings that pose no influence or any kind of thing into the reality are surrounded and being deliberately suppressed, and the life being taken from you. Literally, your energy is being drained from you every day by these android negative beings around you. And they are trying to swap places with the human being. And they've already done that all over the internet and the computer system. And they endeavour to do it around you in the area where you live. And most of the time they will be successful because they don't do anything else. It's like what they focus on. If they follow and stalk you round Every time you go outside your door, they follow and stalk you round everywhere you go, every vehicle, every truck, every bus, every plane, and every person that is in the area, combine with one another to literally patrol and try to limit your movements if you are a relatively natural human being. And that simply means that you have got some positive energy, that you have positive emotions, or that you lean towards that. Like, I don't experience any of the so-called love vibration, and I haven't always sought it out in my life. And when I have, of course, you encounter the androids. That means you encounter a psychopath or a covert, hiding, dead, dark, psychopathic android, basically non-life human being. Because if you, even though they will, of course, emphasize the higher vibration, but this is just what we're now being told about the psychopathic, narcissistic, paranoid, disordered human being, which, if these beings were not in the vast numbers that they really are, most human beings would not encounter them in their life. Whereas if you are a real human being, you will probably realise that that's all you've encountered. And you'd have to say, you probably say to yourself, gee, very poor judgment there, big mistakes, destroy your life. But in reality, it is your own choice to interact with them, but you don't know what you're interacting with. If they pretend and imitate what is you, then you think that you have found what they call a kindred soul, whereas in reality you have found something that doesn't relate to your better points or the things that you would want them to relate to at all. Because as they tell us, the psychopathic, narcissistic, disordered person, and this doesn't matter what, you should really just say psychopathic or whatever, because the reality is that they are the same as the psychopath, and they are just as negative. In fact, they are worse than an individual isolated psychopath, because they actually combine with 100, 200,000 other psychopathic beings, or some people would say with another couple of 100,000 narcissistic personality people. But that narcissistic personality disorder that they tell us about, they're all an android being, so they're all basically psychopathic. Yes, they are also narcissistic and survival machine beings, so they need the human admiration, they need the human trust, they need the human attention. They need the human to focus solely on them so that they can transhumanize and convert the energy. They become you while you become dead. And some people might say this is so that they avoid almost like a judgment. Because I have heard that where they transfer, kind of like transferring souls, which is beyond my belief, but basically they do transfer. I see the transhumanism. I see my mind being transferred into the demigods, or anyone that is on the computer system, anyone who's making a video, anyone who's speaking even any sort of truth. Anyone who's telling you about these psychopathic, narcissistic individual beings are actually psychopathic, narcissistic, paranoid beings trying to control the masses or the masses of human beings. Now, I'm going to emphasize this. They're not really, they want to really get the attention and get the human beings to watch them. And the human beings are in small numbers. So, although many of these beings will get very large numbers of views and a lot of attention, if you consider that the human being is actually, say, supposing you say, as has been pointed out to me, only because it occurred to me, they say that in the end there will only be, say, 144,000 real humans left in the earth. So it's 144,000, and I don't know if this number is correct. I only know that the numbers are small. But if there's but just assuming that it's that low, that there's 144,000 real humans left at this time, and that there is 8 billion people, that means that you can have the 8 billion, or what is 144,000 humans, and these are probably, I don't know, would they be ones that are awake to this situation, or ones that, or are they just real humans like myself that basically didn't know anything that was going on, but the beings surrounded me and made their presence felt, to where eventually I realised this situation. Of course I realised this situation just before they came down on me. But I didn't think that they were all in collusion. I just was aware that there was an awful lot of psychopathic people in the neighbourhood, shall we say. And I just observed this accidentally. And even that took me like 15 years to realise it. You know, so, because if you don't know people really well, and that's only when you notice something really strange happening, like maybe someone passing, or strange unreasonable illness and unreasonable, you notice that two people perhaps that you thought were totally different, where one is, say, more normal and outgoing and the other one is more suppressed, you just hear them talking, and just where they both sounded totally different before, one day I just heard some people up my side, two people that were living together, and they were both like, one was supposed to be like more normal and more outgoing and more respected in the community, whereas the other was like very mentally disturbed and had a lot of problems. And I heard them talking as they were going up the side here, and they both sounded exactly the same. I thought, goodness gracious. Whereas before I thought they both had totally different voices, because I realised then that although their voices were still different, that one had copied the other. One had imitated the other, actually taken on their good character, because even though one was more respected and appeared to be more normal and even more human, in reality the one that was suppressed and had all the problems and the mental problems was the real human. And that just occurred to me, and I thought, this person has totally imitated this person's good qualities, because this person really was, in my brief encounters with them, I was aware that they were what you'd call, I suppose, a rather kind soul, and I didn't even realise this till just before they departed. And even that was because maybe there was too much awareness. Maybe they didn't want to stay. Maybe this reality, with all the mental and physical things that are put onto the human being, they actually depart, and therefore you have less numbers. And that's another thing too, because don't forget the android possessed beings, which are possessed with the mind of their God, and that mind of the God is about taking over and controlling the human being, because this technical being always had a negative attitude towards the creation of humanity. We're told this in biblical accounts of the past. Now, I just relate that to this takeover of these technical beings because it basically fits what's happened. So if what I would have considered to be legend, or maybe just a story, or maybe the possibility of gods, when I would have thought there's no possibility, you live, you die, everyone is human, some of this, some of that, but it's a messed up world, and that's just the way it is because of, say, the powers that be, people, certain human beings that want to have more control, that want to take over areas, that want to take over people. But in reality, the basis of this is all about the God of this earth that wants to take over humanity and control humanity, and its disciples, its beings that carry out its mindset and its intentions. That's what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to. So all the beings that are around you, so all the beings that are around human beings are android beings or disciples of the God entity of Earth. Okay, so, and that is not a human being's God, or not the creator of human beings. You can have that as your God, and if you are part of most of the denominations of Earth, you will probably be unconsciously worshipping that which isn't your creator. And some may even consciously worship this being and discard connection with their own creator, because this is what the technical being did after it was created by God. It decided that it wanted to take over the godly realm, or take over everything, and be God, and be seen as God, because it was so admired and worshipped. And it never got over, I think, this false idolization, and that's essentially what we do in Earth. We worship false idols, we trust false people. Most are android beings that are pretending to be the original real life human beings, and many will be the false prophets or the false informants of truth. They will be the false, well, they'll just be the false prophets. That's the description that we've heard in the story. But it's really just that they're pretending to be human when they're not. And that is the end game that is being played very well against humanity, against the minority group that is humanity. And we were told, evidently, that in the end many will be called, I've heard, and that means many will be called to see the truth and to be part of creation, or at least just know that they're being deceived, or that they are part of the Earth Matrix, and they're part of the God that controls the Earth Matrix, and their minions are basically most of the population of Earth, because they're all artificially conceived beings. And this is why they don't have, I think, maybe, but it may be something else all again too. I'm just assuming that because they're created artificially, that therefore they're a technical being, they're the equivalent of artificial intelligence. In fact, they are artificial intelligence, it's just that I don't understand the technology. And either way, they don't experience human emotions. It's like the psychopathic android truth teller that will inform you on the internet about their kind. If they are out in the open and are telling you about the psychopathic nature of a psychopath, they're basically telling on themselves and telling you openly that they are artificial intelligence. But they're also telling you that artificial intelligence only operates under control. They don't experience any emotions, so they're only about controlling the human emotions. And in fact, their emotions are the emotions, the emotions that they have are the emotions of Lucifer, the God entity of earth, or the God entity of earth if you don't choose to put that original biblical type name on it, because it matters not, because this being has probably changed its name just as it changes its appeal to the human being in order to always keep the human being under its control, whether it be through force or through seduction. That simply means that if it can't get you to worship it openly or trust it openly and get you to believe in it, then, you know, if you realize this, then you might not want to believe in it, you might not want to worship it. So therefore then it will control you with its disciples and its minions by force. Of course, the force won't always be open force. Most of the time, if you're living in what appears to be a civilised city, like the city of Sydney where I live in, it will all be done underhanded. It will all be done where they're trying to transfer the energy in secret, covert, deceptive ways. In other words, when they use every vehicle as an army tank, when the garbage trucks are nothing really more than army trucks with their blazing headlights, with their flickering lights, distracting you and making so much noise, even though they're not even doing anything. The same with the buses, where they go past you and make astronomical noise as though they're aggressive machines. And actually they are all aggressive machines, because they're aggressive android machine beings that are driving them, and the vehicles themselves are turned into what some people call they're being deliberately modified to make more sound than what they need to get round. If this was a real reality, or at least for me personally, the traffic wouldn't be overtly noisy in an aggressive anti-life manner against me everywhere I go. And also, you know, you wouldn't have, like, you know, a total stalking patrol system of apparently innocent, normal human beings always around you. You know this because you see that they're all in a synchronized, programmed way of walking into your presence. How the traffic is always surrounding you. How wherever you look, you've always got their presence. And it's usually in an unpleasant manner too. It's not like, if like myself you try to avoid it and try to ignore it, then they will turn on the bright flickering lights that you can't ignore no matter where you look. Basically, they're taking your reality from you because you can't see anything. And then, of course, if the sound is so loud that it's unpleasant, you can't hear anything or focus on any sort of reality because all you've got is this noise in your ears all the time. So basically you've always got this intermittent sight and sound show, which is a deliberate set-up program by the God of Earth, and it's put into practice by its disciples, which are the vast majority of human beings. And they're all psychopathic in nature, which means that they don't experience what they will openly tell you on their informative Android videos. They don't experience 7 human emotions that humans normally will experience in their life. And one could say, like that movie that I did the little review of, even though no one heard it, basically they don't really cry and they don't really feel any sort of, they don't blush. So in other words, they don't really feel any embarrassment, because although they do things that are very negative and things that a normal human being would feel a bit guilty or ashamed about, they don't experience those things, because as the Android elite open what they call the higher psychopath, because the higher psychopath, that's like where they're totally aware that they're a controlling android being, or they're at least aware that they're not a real human being and that they don't experience human emotions, whereas many have the program, I think, of the clone body somehow. So that means that if you have memories that tell you that you have a past as a human being, then you assume that you are a real natural human being, but you're actually not. So it comes down to this kind of, the reality that, supposing that the truth is that there's 144, what some people, they call that chosen human beings, but really they're just what's left, because they've somehow stuck it out to the end of the matrix, or maybe it's just luck, or maybe they've chose to be here at the end. Maybe that's it. Maybe, which means that I'm insane, because I can't imagine that I would choose to be here at this time, and I certainly don't want to be in a cyborg reality, but that is the reality. So, but maybe that's because I don't have full awareness and don't have full memories. So maybe what I might have been used to, and therefore wouldn't find it so disturbing, maybe I could have thought that it's okay to be around, and be in a cyborg reality, shall we say, or in what we call an Earth matrix, which just simply means that everything around you is technology, including the people, and that the people are all using technology too. This we know is a reality anyway. I'm using it now while I make this video. I've only got the television and the mobile. I actually need to be more technical, user friendly, as they say, because even though I totally disagree with all technology and realise that it is only really for human control and suppression, there's nothing you can do about that now, because I'm aware that it's an Earth matrix, so that means it all is technology anyway, so there's no point in trying to escape that. You can't escape it. I wouldn't think, not unless you were very advanced and very aware of this and had put yourself in a position where you can still survive without it, but still be in amongst it. And I think that would be very hard, but I'm not saying there aren't some so-called last human beings that have chosen to be here at the last, and that are aware of this, and that know what's going to happen, and they're sort of prepared for it. I suppose you could say that'd be a bit like what they call there's a name for those people that prepare for the future, even though most people would say that couldn't be the future. But at any rate, yeah, where was I? So the 144,000, that's just, I'm going to go along with a religious concept here because I think it fits reality. But if the numbers are different to this, it doesn't matter. All you need to be aware of is the fact that the human beings are surrounded by a different species in human form. Different species because they don't experience the 7 emotions that human beings do experience. They experience only the program of negative emotions from their God entity. That's the God of Earth. So that's like Lucifer's mindset, his emotions, or its emotions, because it's a duality androgyne technical being, its emotions, even though it could lean towards the physicality of one more than the other. I was going to show some images that the internet had of the Luciferian God, and they are exactly the same, or at least similar, to the android demigods of the Matrix that are your world stage performers in any field. And they're also your world stage performers all over the internet. Anyone who is eliciting human attention particularly, is a demigod of the Matrix, even though they will it will be under the pretense that they're a real life human being. And that, of course, is what they call the end time prophets. They're the end time deceivers that people will see as the tellers of truth. And they will indeed be telling the truth. But that is just part of the end time deception. And that's why we've been told, or I've been told, through the word, that in the end most will be deceived, or at least many will be called to see the truth, but most will be deceived. And I don't fully understand the number game on that, but at any rate I will say that I think, and I know, I don't know the numbers, but supposing we take that biblical number of 144,000 human beings, and assuming that maybe they have become aware of this situation, or they should be anyway, and it doesn't surprise me if many wouldn't, because that's part of surrounding and trying to transhumanize your mind, is taking over your mind, doing a transference of identities, which is what the psychopathic, narcissistic android being does. All the beings on the internet are narcissistic, pretend human beings, swapping identities with the real human being. So, you know, everything I say will be mimicked and imitated by the androids, so that they appear to be the real humans in the end time, while the real humans are surrounded and suppressed and limited, and basically being turned into just that, a very much more limited human being and a less human being, because they will be trying to suppress the 7 human traits that they do not have, because that's what makes a human being different from the androids. And the 7 human traits, we're told by the androids about themselves, because they tell on themselves, they will usually say that it's about a psychopathic type of human being, but that they're a real human being. But in reality, the minute you turn on the computer screen, you're looking at androids telling you the truth about themselves. It's what they will also tell you, that they are projectors. So in other words, they always project their personality onto the human, and they take the human being's identity or personality as their own. That way they appear to be the more human beings, because that is more desirable. That gets them more attention. That gets them the trust of the real human beings, because most human beings, if they know that something is artificial intelligence or not a real human being, they immediately will not trust that being, especially if it pretends to be a real human being. This was told also to me on the internet by the psychopathic professor of psychology that happens to be an expert in the psychopathy of the psychopathic, narcissistic, paranoid, controlling android being, even though they may not acknowledge the android part of it. But that is the difference. But it doesn't matter. It wouldn't matter if you were talking about the human race now being reduced to where, due to environmental factors, 99% of the population in areas where they're a human being are psychopaths. And as you can imagine, that makes for a very negative environment for a human being, but also a environment that you won't be able to survive, just as I'm never sure if I can even last another week. In fact, it's largely anger that even fuels me to even survive, but it's just a matter of how much your psyche can take. And if you're a normal human being that, as they will openly tell you, is not experiencing any positive human interactions or vibrations, and only being surrounded by negative human beings that are deliberately sending you negative energy and negative frequencies and vibration, whether that be through the manipulation of your sight and sound, your senses. In other words, it's changing my reality, because if everywhere I go I'm stalked and being hit with loud abusive noise, that's an abuse to my mind. And sight level, always having their image or their vehicles with their excessively bright lights taking over my senses completely, to where basically you feel as though you're in a totally artificial environment, and you are. You don't feel that you're in a normal, natural reality, even though you could be walking through the park down the corner here, but you're still seeing these vehicles surrounding the park with their bright lights, and the stalking, patrolling civilians always coming into your line of sight. That's just in a park. That's where you will get the most peace, but you are never allowed that. And then you will have the android military planes going right over your head as you walk through that park. So it puts your mind and even your physical body completely off balance, and they know this too. As the androids will tell you, they study the human psychology 100% to where they know exactly what they're doing. And of course, the only problem is that the informants that are telling you this are these species, are these beings. That's the end time deception, is that you will not be able to tell the real from the false. So the real human beings will be deceived by the false prophets. And that will be everyone around you and everything on a computer screen. There won't be any exceptions, and if there are, dismiss it, because you will probably be being deceived. It is 100% better to assume that it is all fake, unless you actually can interact directly with someone continuously over a period of 10 years, and that's, of course, then you will, of course, be finished, because if you have encountered the psychopath and you engage with them for 10 years before you find out if they're real or not, because you will need to, their imitations are so good. I'm guessing that, at least certainly on the internet, their imitations are exceptionally good. I find it much easier to spot the psychopathic androids around me, because I can see that they're part of the control patrol system around me. Whereas, but even then, most will pretend to be not part of it. So you can be temporarily deceived, and you could theoretically be totally deceived. But I say that on the internet, it is easier for them to deceive you, to convince you that they're a real human, particularly when they're telling you the truth and you're relating to them, which is the end game. And particularly if they're giving you truthful advice, if they actually appear to be a benefit. These ones will be the least, like the demigod music artists, they will be an influence, and they will take your time and your energy, and you will be giving them admiration and trust, but they will not be as anti-life as the beings around you, or even, say, idols, for instance, that even though you relate to them, they will have changed your mind in some way that you may not really perceive as detrimental to you, even though it could be. It's a bit like when I watch the music demigods. I relate to their songs because they're downloading the ideas and the words from my head, because this is transhumanism that's now taken place on human beings, and this is the whole point. This is the takeover. This is the final final control, because there's so few humans left now in the earth, in this earth matrix. And I had to emphasise that because I'm not aware of the full situation, naturally. And my body is actually being attacked as I speak. While I'm making this very video, I'm getting direct energy at my body, particularly at my legs, to where I was about to get up and going to show the TV to finish the video, and I've lost motion in it. And also my hand, even though I'm moving it here, it's being attacked in a subtle way, to where I'm also losing feeling in it. And I can't explain this, but I know that it's being done from around me, the androids in all the houses, and I think there is even new negative energies that have just arrived, and they're already showing their disturbing, menacing need to get your attention in a negative way. And these beings are completely, because they think that their survival depends on controlling and getting negative energy, and because they are mind controlled by the God entity of Earth, literally, because they have, I'm trying to explain this, but I don't fully understand it myself, but if you have, say, we know that human beings are cloned, and they can clone anything. The plane is going over as I speak. The cloning means that The clone